We're really delighted when anyone tunes into our channel, and people do that for a myriad of reasons. Idle boredom, distraction, or just to see an idiot like me make a fool of myself. There's many reasons why people tune in. But this particular video is dedicated to those people who watch our channel and any other channel with the aim or interest of learning more about Paraguay, learning more factual, reliable information, facts and details about this wonderful country. Because over quite a period of time, it's been my observation and that of several other people I know that increasingly the information that you would call at least reliable and even the truth of what's going on here in Paraguay is increasingly being lost in a cacophony of, noise from two particular elements. The intention of this video is not to call out anyone in particular or any particular group just for the sake of it, but this information, facts about Paraguay, are gleaned from people who are wanting predominantly to move here or thinking about moving to this country or moving to another country. So the stakes are high. I don't generally regard what we do on our channel as just being fun, entertainment value, fairy floss. The information that we provide, I try to make it at least valuable, interesting, maybe entertaining, I don't know. But the primary reason to make our content is just to give people an insight, some reliable, valid information. And it's that group of people who I have predominantly in mind when I talk here today in this video. The misery merchants, those people who often do their worst work online on social media forums, get on there and pretty much spin tales about just how horrendous Paraguay is. Often these people will have a backstory, like they've been in the country for a period of time, they failed or it didn't work for them, or they had to go back to their home country for another reason. Paraguay wasn't exciting enough for them. On and on and on it goes. There's many reasons why people come and then they leave. That's just human nature. We've been to countries and didn't stay there. I get it. But what I do notice increasingly are that the misery merchants tend to build a mountain out of a molehill. And they seem to have, in many cases, an agenda to create a case that there's very little in the way of positive about Paraguay, or at least they will take information that they've gleaned about the country and they will build on it in a way that is just often ludicrous. For example, recently I was on a forum and I saw somebody making such a case, and in their diatribe they were talking about one of their concerns was the concerns about rabies and leprosy in Paraguay. Well, leprosy, it's about 0.004% of the population. It's endemic to a very particular small slither of Paraguayan community. And a foreigner would have no chance of contracting it, or at least as much chance as finding an honest politician. So, they needn't really overly worry with that. Rabies, well, rabies has just about been beaten here. Sure, it exists and it's apparently in some of the animals in the country, but it's not something that really dominates the fears and concerns and realities of anyone really here in Paraguay to the most part. Definitely not to foreigners, and definitely not those living in leafy suburbs of Asuncion or just about anywhere else that foreigners congregate. My point isn't about rabies or leprosy. My point is about people grasping at straws in order to sell their misery. Why would people be motivated to sell misery? Well, sometimes they're just selling the misery for attention, because misery loves company and so does failure. So in some cases, it's just simply that people have got a bee in their bonnet about the country that didn't work out for them, and they want other people to really know about it. And that's cool, as long as it's factual information. But when it's attached to things like that, well, come on. And of course, the other cornerstones of these kind of cases are things like, oh, Paraguay is so corrupt and, the whole place is riddled with it. Well, yeah, which country isn't? How did Mark Carney get his job? How did Starmer find his way to the top job? What's going on in the countries that we came from? I just find it just preposterous that people would come from the West and point their finger at any country in this day and age and somehow claim that there's a rampant level of corruption in a country. Maybe we look in our own backyards if that's such a concern to us, but yeah, definitely there's a corruption element in this country. It works kind of a bit differently than it does from other places, but my goodness, we really need to keep things in perspective. But I don't think it's about putting out factual information about corruption. It's more about building that case. Build it with rabies and leprosy and corruption and toxic foreigner groups. All the foreigners in Paraguay are toxic and it's this and that. It's just all shards of validity, but built with a purpose to sell something. And what gets lost? Too often, the truth, the facts, the reality of what's going on in that country, because someone's trying to build a case. So that's what you've got on one side of the spectrum. And then you go right on to the other side and you've got the rainbow and unicorn people, the ones who are trying to sell Paraguay as the Shangri-La. You just need to come here and women half your age will swoon over you. You'll never have to pay tax. Everything's going to be just living a shiny, happy life. And, it's just going to be perfect day in, day out. Often these groups are just making increasingly ridiculous claims about things like property. You can buy an apartment and flip it and you're going to make a fortune, and there's no downside. But what's ironic is that you can flick onto these channels the next day and they've gone from rainbow and unicorn to misery merchants, and then there's just oscillating back and forth, knock themselves out. And if it's just about entertainment, well, if that's what rocks you, well, go for it. I have no issue with that. But remember, this video is dedicated to those people who want, at least reliable or at very least honest information about the country. And what we are seeing constantly are that people are using Paraguay almost just like a convenient tool, just picking away at it and just selecting random factoids and then just building on them, embellishing them, just building some ludicrous case because they need to make a video quickly to sell their travel insurance and their hair plugs and their Wise accounts and whatever else they're spinning or trying to sell that day. So it's not about information at all. It's just about spinning a yarn in order to get your attention to find their way to your bank account. They want to sell stuff. There's nothing new. But what we do see, the people that are actually here, that have actually purchased real estate, lived in the society, bought the car, done this and done that and done something else, is that often these two groups are just blowing out information. And in the meantime, the actual factual information that a lot of people watching this process, well, that information's just gone by the wayside. And particularly when it comes to the misery merchants, they dominate the social media forums in a way that we've seen. And there's two particular sites that used to be so important for people moving to Paraguay to get factual information. Well, the cornerstones of those sites, the people that were really the bedrock of reliable information based on years of experience, well, they mostly left the building. They just don't participate often these days because you've just got the misery merchants and occasionally the rainbow and unicorn people just plying their magic And the people that really know what they're talking about have sometimes just walked away and given up, because who wants to argue with someone that's been here for 5 minutes and thinks that they know everything and is just really wanting to sell something, whether it's their misery or, you know, whatever else it is that day that they're trying to push. But for those people that are buying those wares, you know, and knowing that they're doing that, good for them. But the people that are watching on and just maybe incidentally buying into this information, it's those people that I have a concern for, because what we're doing here is no small thing. We've moved to another country and we're trying to provide factual, honest information about how someone might do that. That's predominantly what our channel's about, and I know others in different ways are. This is not a small thing. There's a lot relying on it. And I have seen too many people, too many families who have lost their way, who have, for one reason or another, listened to the wrong information or, you know, gone down the wrong path. And it can really cause a situation that you can't come back from. So I'm not trying to overblow it for more than it is, but the truth is this isn't just about entertainment. There is real lives on the line, money on the line when it comes to advice about whether it's real estate or anything else. So I think it's important for those people who fall into that category that I dedicated this video to, who are looking for decent, factual, honest information. Well, I just want to maybe reiterate what you may have already noticed or sensed, or if you haven't, we'll just bring your attention to it. What's the alternative? Well, just yesterday I was watching a video from a guy named Caleb from base in Paraguay. I don't know him from a bar of soap. I've only watched 1 or 2 of his videos, but he laid down one of the best assessments about the realities of buying an apartment in Asuncion that I've seen online. It was a real masterclass when it comes to looking at buying an apartment in Paraguay. There were a few things that maybe I would have added, but that's just a personal take. But in all, it was the sort of video that anyone who's thinking about doing that should tune into. And it wasn't designed just to, you know, sell the glitz. But what I did notice is that, you know, that video got a few views, but it didn't get anywhere near the views it should when you compare it to some of the froth and bubble nonsense from the rainbow and unicorn crowd with the nauseating music, the pretty girls and the strutting and the bragging about how small the weights room is. It just boggles my mind that you have such valuable content from someone like based in Paraguay, and comparatively, where are the clicks? I can only hope that the people who are really looking for good information are finding channels like that. And in time, hopefully the rainbow and unicorn people will move on to greener pastures. And there's other sites like my friend Ryan and Paraguay Mike, people who have been here for a long time. Ryan gives a lot of kind of opinion-oriented information and his experiences. A younger guy who's lived both in the West and in Paraguay. Great insights and information and unique perspective really for someone that can talk into both worlds. And you've got Paraguay Mike, who's been here for years, and he's a real wise owl. You know, he knows what he's talking about, been down the road. I think he's married to a local, so, you know, he puts out some valuable information. And in all those cases, they do well, their channels do well and stuff, but there are rainbow and unicorn people who are really, if clicks and comments and so forth were the arbiter, well, unfortunately, some of these more factual channels have a way to catch up on them. And I think that's unfortunate. My hope and recommendation is that people who are interested in the truth and learning more about Paraguay, maybe just, you're probably already checking those channels, but if you're not, get over to them and make up your own mind. And that's what it's all about, isn't it? Ultimately, we all put out our opinions, and opinions can be right and they can be wrong. But The important thing is that people who are putting out opinions are backing it on the basis of some sort of information. It's like when I go to a house, I have an opinion about the price and the condition. You might have a totally different opinion. And that's fine. But if you were to ask me why I thought it's the price that I say it is and why I think it might be a reasonable buy, you can be sure that I will have some data, some reasons why I'm saying I think that's the case. I can show you several other properties around that have fetched that, or whatever the subject matter is. I always build my opinion at least on something, some basis to have the opinion, other than just wanting to make a video to sell the next big thing. And that's all you can really ask for. And just the final thing, when it comes to those rainbow and unicorn people, I have no objection whatsoever about them, running a channel, making money as creators, because cameras, microphones don't come for free. You've got to make these videos, edit them. It takes a lot of time, and it's totally understood and accepted that that's just the way things roll. The only time I have an issue is when it's content for the sake of nothing else but money, particularly when it comes to important information that can change lives, that can alter the trajectory of someone's entire future or even a family. That's when I think we all need to step in and look at the misery merchants and the rainbow and unicorn crowd and see them for what they are. And, if they're entertaining us, we'll lock ourselves out. Let's get entertained. But let's always consume it whilst we know what we're consuming. And hopefully we're not acting on information that we're getting that is just put out there just for the sake of clicks or for company, because misery loves company. Thank you very much to everyone that tunes into our channel. We do always appreciate it, and we never take that for granted. And to those channels that I mentioned, well, I wish them well, and I hope that everyone tunes into those channels and tell me what you think of them. I'd be interested in hearing your thoughts. But just the small snippets of what I've seen, at least on Caleb's channel, looks like we've got another good, honest player in the market, and so long may he continue and prosper. So until next time, take care. Ciao.
Smoking